Dear children, welcome once again. Again, we are with W.B. Yeats in his poem Among School Children. This poem is one of his very acclaimed poem composed in the year 1926. This poem is appeared in the volume called The Tower. The poem is in 8 stanzas and each stanza consists of 8 lines. In today's lecture, we are going to cover the first 4 stanzas. Now, when this poem was composed, the poet was a member of the Irish Senate and a very successful public figure. Now, this poem is the outcome of the poet's visit to Waterford Convent School. Now, when the poet visits that school, at that time he was received there by an old nun. Now, that nun was wearing a white hood as a part of her uniform. She answered all his questions and she conducted him through different classes. When he enters in the classroom, at that time the children, the young students, looked at him with wonder in their eyes. Now, while looking at those young students, and particularly the young or small girl students, Yeats remembers, or there are so many memories crowd upon him, and he is reminded with Morgan, who is the poet's beloved. And he remembers Morgan of that age as the poet looks at those girl students before him who are looking with very astonishment towards the poet. Now let us see the poem line by line. Now this poem is a combination of different themes that we are going to discuss at the end of the poem. Let us see the stanzas first of all. I walk through the long classroom, questioning. A kind old nun in a white hood replies. The children learn to cipher and to sing, to study reading books and history, to cut and sew, be neat in everything, in the best modern way. The children's eyes, in momentary wonder, stare upon a 60-year-old smiling public man. Now, as I told you, the poet, when he visited that particular school, was 60 years old and a very famous public figure as well. Now, when he visits that Waterford Convent School, he was received and conducted by a nun. Now, she shows him the classrooms, answers his questions, and he enters in one classroom. The children were learning there arithmetic, singing, history, how to cut and how to sew. And some of them were looking at the poet with wonder in their eyes. Now, as the poet glances a little girl student in that school, he is reminded, though there isn't any particular reference of her name. See, in this poem we do not find the name Morgan anywhere, but that is the reference to Morgan, who is the poet's beloved. Now, in the second stanza he says, I dream of a laden body bent above a sinking fire, a tale that she told of a harsh reproof or trivial event that changed some childish day to tragedy. Told, and it seemed that our two natures blent into a sphere from youthful sympathy, or else to alter Plato's parable into the yolk and white of the one shell. Now, as the poet looks at the little girl students in that school, he is reminded of another laden beauty. Now see, while looking at those girl students, the poet reminds Morgan, and he feels that, or he compares that the girls are having features just like Leda. Now who is this Leda? Leda is a mythological lady. लेडा ही एक पुराणांमधली स्त्री आहे. ती आणि झेस नावाचा जो देवता आहे, जी देवता आहे, पुरुष देवता, तर त्या दोघांचं अपत्य म्हणजे हेलन नावाची स्त्री, जिच्यामुळं ट्रॉयचं खूप मोठं युद्ध झालेलं होतं. तर या दोन्ही स्त्रिया, पुराणकालीन स्त्रिया, या त्यांच्या सौंदर्यासाठी खूप प्रसिद्ध आहेत. तर जेव्हा ईट्स त्या शाळेमधल्या त्या छोट्या मुलींकडे बघतो, तेव्हा त्यांचे फीचर्स त्याला या लेडासारखे दिसतात. म्हणजे त्या अतिशय देखण्या आहेत, मुली सुंदर आहेत. नाव ही फाउंड इन देम वेल chiseled Leda-like classic features, and at the same time he recalls that Morgan too, and he feels that she might also be having such kind of features when she was a student once upon a time in school. की ती पण जेव्हा या मुलीने एवढीच असेल, शाळेमध्ये असेल, तेव्हा तिचे फीचर्ससुद्धा या मुलींसारखे असतील, की जे त्याला लेडाच्या फीचर्सशी मिळते जुळते वाटतात. आणि त्याच वेळेस त्याला ते आठवतं की ती कशा पद्धतीने तिच्या शाळेमधल्या दिवसांच्या आठवणी या कवीला सांगत असे. नाव ही रिकॉल्स दॅट हाऊ मॉडगॉन टू मस्ट हॅव बीन अ स्टुडंट वन्स ॲट स्कूल, अँड हिअर he tries to relate the past events with the present. Now the image of Morgan, now the girls reminded him Morgan, and Morgan reminded him of particular conversation that took place between the poet and Morgan, when she had told him how while at school petty incidents or some trivial things used to change her happy day into tragedy. Maybe some of the teachers who caused great unhappiness to her, and her day used to turn into a tragedy. Now when she used to narrate all these things to poet, the poet remembers how he had listened for narration what she used to tell him, and he felt a kind of sympathy with her, and there was such kind of understanding between Morgan and the poet that he felt their souls, their heart seemed to fuse and blend into one, like the yolk and white of an egg. आता बघा, तो तुलना कशाशी करतो आहे? एका अंड्यामध्ये जसं पिवळं आणि पांढरं बलक हे एकत्रित राहतं, राईट? तशाच पद्धतीने त्या दोघांची मनं ही इतकी एक झालेली असायची, आणि त्याला ते इन्सिडंट सगळे आठवले की जेव्हा ती तिच्या शाळेतल्या काही आठवणी त्याला सांगत असे. आणि या माध्यमातून तो काय करतो आहे की भूतकाळ आणि आत्ताचं असलेलं वर्तमान या दोघांना तो जोडू पाहतो आहे. अँड इट्स हिअर रिगार्ड्स द रेस्टोरेशन ऑफ इनोसन्स ॲज द हायेस्ट अचिव्हमेंट ऑफ द इंटलेक्ट. आता ही एक थीम आहे या कवितेची, आपण म्हणू शकतो, इनोसन्स, की ह्या मुलींकडे बघत असताना मॉडगॉननी काही आठवणी तिच्या सांगितल्या असताना एक प्रकारचा जो निष्पापपणा त्याला अनुभवाला आलेला होता, तर ते तो सांगतो आहे. आणि या माध्यमातून त्याला तिच्या आठवणी पुन्हा एकदा जाग्या करण्याची संधी मिळालेली आहे. Now she used to tell him the incidents he had sympathized her till the two had become as united as the yellow and white parts of the egg. आता इथं बघा, alteration of Plato's parable in the symposium serves to remind us that the sphere and the egg, which can turn perpetually inside out without breaking. आता हे एक ईट्सचं सिम्बॉल आहे असं म्हणू शकतो आपण, की जे शाश्वत सत्य सांगण्याचा इथं प्रयत्न करत आहे. नाव इन द थर्ड स्टॅन्झा द पोएट सेज, and thinking of that fit of grief or rage, I look upon one child or the other there and wonder if she stood so that age, for even daughters of the swan can share something of every paddler's heritage, and had that color upon a cheek or hair, and thereupon my heart is driven wild. She stands before me as a living child. Now see, the poet and his thoughts again turn upon the image of Mordgon. Now while looking at the different girls who were standing and looking with astonishment in their eyes, looking with wonder, at that time he reminds Mordgon and his thoughts run wild. Now Mordgon as a child must have been very much like Helen. आता जसं मी सांगितलं तुम्हाला की तो इथं तिची तुलना हेलेनशी करतो आहे. That she must have been very much like Helen, the daughter of the swan. He is also reminded with her looks. परत तो तिचा म्हणजे फीचर्स त्याला आठवतात, तिचा चेहरा आठवायचा तो प्रयत्न करतो आहे. अँड हॅविंग थॉट अपॉन द सॅड इव्हेंट्स, की कधीतरी तिने ज्या काही दुःखद किंवा उदासवाण्या आठवणी त्याला सांगितल्या असतील. हॅविंग थॉट अपॉन द सॅड इव्हेंट विच हिज बिलिव्हड वन्स नरेटेड टू हिम, he imagines Mordgon standing before him as a living thing there, and he looks upon this girl and that girl and imagines the features of Mordgon might be very much similar to the girls who are standing before him. And here he reminded the features of Helen as well, and imagines the features of Helen might be like this one, and he tries to compare the features of the girls Mordgon with Helen, and he thinks that there must be something common with plain women having ordinary features as well. तो इमॅजिन करतो आहे की फीचर्स कसे असतील, मॉडगॉन कशी दिसत असेल, तिच्या केसाचा रंग कसा असेल, तिचा चेहऱ्याचा कलर कसा असेल. द कलर ऑफ द चीक हेअर ऑफ वन गर्ल रिमाइंड हिम ऑफ द कॉम्प्लेक्शन ऑफ हिज बिलवेड, अँड he imagines that his imagination makes Mordgon alive, standing just right before him. See, as we move on from the first to the second to the third, see, when we move on till the end, the different themes are there. And we are really surprised to see what kind of transition is taking place in the thoughts of Yeats while going through that inspection. Now in the fourth stanza, he says, her present image floats into the mind. Did Quattrocento finger fashion it, hollow of cheek, as though it drank the wind, and took a maze of shadows for its meat? And I, though never of laden kind, had plenty plumage once, enough of that. Better to smile on all that smile and show there is a comfortable kind of old scarecrow. Now, see, from the girls, from Morgan, from Helen, now he turns towards the old age. What he talks about here, now while comparing these girls, the features of these girls, Morgan and Helen, he reflects upon old age. आता त्याचे विचार कुठं जात आहेत तर old age. And he feels that. He feels the present or what type of features might be of Morgan at present age. की तिचं आत्ता ती कशी दिसत असेल, की जेव्हा he says her present image floats into the mind. Now present image, how is her present image in the mind of the poet? He is reminded of her looks in her old age. आता ती वृद्धत्वाकडे जेव्हा तिची पण वाटचाल चालू आहे, की पोएट इथं 60 वर्षाचा आहे, ती पण त्याच्या आसपासच्या वयाचीच असणार या दिवसांमध्ये. अँड ही इज रिमाइंडेड of her looks in her old age, and he used to feel that she was like a piece of Renaissance art. की क्वाट्रोसेंटो म्हणजे काय आहे, 15व्या शतकामध्ये जी रेनेसन्स किंवा पुनरुज्जीवनाची मूवमेंट झालेली होती आणि त्याच्यामध्ये जे कला आणि सगळ्या वेगवेगळ्या गोष्टींचं पुनरुज्जीवन झालेलं होतं आणि त्यावेळेस पेंटिंग असेल, स्कल्प्टर असेल, हे सगळं खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणामध्ये उदयाला आलं पुन्हा. आणि त्या रेनेसान्स काळातल्या एखाद्या चित्रकारांनी तिचं जर चित्र काढलं तर ती कशी दिसेल. शी वॉज लाईक अ पीस ऑफ रेनेसन्स आर्ट. ऑल्दो शी हॅड, आता कशी आहे ती, ऑल्दो शी हॅड हॉलो चीक्स, वॉज ओल्ड, डेक्रिपेट, अँड लुक्ड ॲज इफ शी ड्रँक ओनली विंड अँड हॅड ओनली शॅडोज टू ईट. आता तिला दात नाही आहेत. hollow of cheek as though it drank the wind and took a maze of shadows for its meat. But still, असं असलं तरीसुद्धा, दंतविहीन जरी ती असली तरीसुद्धा किती इतकी प्रेझेंटेबल आहे तो म्हणतो, दॅट स्टील डिस्पाईट हर ओल्ड एज शी वॉज अ फिट ऑब्जेक्ट फॉर अ ग्रेट वर्क ऑफ आर्ट. भलेही तिच्या मुखामध्ये, तिच्या तोंडात दात नसतील, तरीसुद्धा चेहऱ्यावर सुरकुत्यांचं जाळं असू शकेल, तरीसुद्धा केस पांढरे झालेले असू शकतील, तरीसुद्धा what he thinks that despite all these things, despite the marks of the old age she is having on her body, she is a fit object for the great work of art. She may be look presentable even in old age. Now it is a natural transition. तारुण्य आणि सौंदर्य कोणाला टिकून राहावं असं वाटत नाही. But this transition from youth to the old age, this is quite a natural thing and that must be accepted. He says here that it is a natural transition. He says, has played, see, he tries to compare his own youth and the youth of Morgan with their today's age. And he says here that she looked presentable even in her old age, but it is quite natural that old age is inevitable. That cannot be, that anybody, not a single person on this earth can avoid old age and death as well. Now he imagines his own beauty, though he was never like a Lydian kind. तो भलेही त्या सगळ्या दैवी स्त्री पुरुषांसारखा नसेल, but He too was quite handsome once upon a time. He was having good features, good personality, a handsome personality once upon a time, and had pretty plumage as well. But now he has become a sort of scarecrow. आता स्केअरक्रो म्हणजे काय बघा, तर एक बुजगावणं तुम्ही शेतामध्ये बघत असाल. पक्ष्यांना घालवण्यासाठी एक बुजगावणं उभं केलेलं असतं, म्हणजे त्या काट्यापासून ते तयार केलेलं असतं. एक काठी, त्याला 2 हात काठ्यांचेच, आणि वरती एक काहीतरी असं गाडगं टाईप ठेवलेलं असतं किंवा मडकं टाईप ठेवलेलं असतं. रादर सम क्लोथ, म्हणजे कधी कधी तर त्याच्यावरती एखादं वस्त्र पण गुंडाळलेलं असू शकतं डोक्यावरती, की तो माणूस आहे असा आभास व्हावा म्हणून. तर तो म्हणतो, नाव ही हॅज बिकम अ स्केअरक्रो. बट दो he is at his 60s, though his youth and handsomeness might have passed away, though the beauty of Morgon might have passed away, but what he says, but one must make the best of a bad bargain. आता हे बॅड बार्गेन आहे, राईट. जे आपल्याकडचं जे अतिशय नितांत सुंदर असतं ते द्यायचं आणि काहीतरी घ्यायचं दुसरं. सुरकुत्या पडलेला चेहरा असेल, पांढरे केस, डोळ्यावरती चष्मा तर आजकाल कधीही लागतो म्हणा. बट वन मस्ट मेक द बेस्ट ऑफ अ बॅड बार्गेन अँड कीप अ स्माइलिंग फेस, बिकॉज देर इजंट एनिथिंग टू डू राईट दॅट मोमेंट. टू कीप अ स्माइलिंग फेस वॉट एवर ही मे फील विदिन. त्या व्यक्तीला काहीही वाटलं मनातून तरीसुद्धा हसरा चेहरा ठेवून ते सगळं ॲक्सेप्ट करण्याशिवाय पर्याय नाही, असं तो म्हणतो. देर इज नो यूज साईंग ओव्हर वॅनिश्ड यूथ अँड ब्युटी. काही उपयोग आहे का? जे गेलेलं आहे तारुण्य आणि सौंदर्य त्याच्याबद्दल उगीचच दीर्घ उसासे टाकण्यात. अँड दॅट इज वाय वन शूड ऑलवेज कीप स्माइलिंग अँड शो द वर्ल्ड दॅट इवन इफ वन हॅज ग्रोन an old person or a scarecrow, it is at least a comfortable kind of scarecrow. Now see, from Morgon, from the small children, from the girl students, those who were standing before him, his thoughts had long overcame to old age and death and decay. Now see, he says, or he tries to convince himself that these are the unavoidable things. One must, or Yeats should also have to accept his old age and the grim realities relating with the age. All these things must be accepted and one must learn to make the best of that bad bargain. बघा आता कुठून कुठपर्यंत. आता पुढचे जे काही 4 स्टॅन्झाज आहेत ते सुद्धा अशाच पद्धतीने खूप विचारांना प्रवृत्त करणारे आहेत, की सुरुवात जरी आपल्याला अशी वाटत असली की कवी एका शाळेमध्ये इन्स्पेक्शनच्या निमित्ताने जातो, त्याला त्याची प्रेयसी आठवते. रादर प्रत्येकच कवितेमध्ये कुठं ना कुठं तरी त्याला आपल्याला त्या मॉडगॉनचा रेफरन्स येतो. अर्थात तिचा उल्लेख कुठं सहसा जास्त प्रकर्षाने दिसत नाही. जिथं काही 2-4 कवितांमध्ये आहे तिचा उल्लेख, नाही असं नाही, पण आत्तासुद्धा तिच्या नावाचा उल्लेख जरी कुठं नसला तरीसुद्धा इथं आपल्याला तीच भेटते आहे त्याच्या विचारांच्या माध्यमातून. सो टुडे वी विल स्टॉप हिअर अँड इन आवर नेक्स्ट लेक्चर वी विल कवर द रिमेनिंग 4 स्टॅन्झाज.